Check, check, 1, 2. Check, check, 1, 2. From A-Town to Greenville, Ohio. EJ the Witch Doctor and Cass Meta. Yeah, check, check, 1, 2. What's up, welcome to Thrasherville, where caps get peeled. Don't run up on me, got one on me. Might not see me shining, not into diamonds. Trying to keep from falling back to a life of crime.
Start of this fight is looking really good. Zealot calls point, I warp in, and we start applying a little bit of damage. We're concerned because they have a gang following us from a few jumps away. We know they've got a side row pilgrim after us, so we're keeping range and trying to play safe, seeing how the situation will unfold.
I'm from the D-U-N-G-O-N. Got 100 hollow points, leave your ass with no win. I hold a deck, pull the card. Be standing in your front yard or live in your iPod. Die hard, wicked when I'm aiming. I'm so play I get
Falcon lands. Local's going up a little bit, Loki and D-scan. We pull a little bit of range, trying to figure out how quickly this Falcon can jam us, and if there's any way that we can still stay on the grid, and keep looking for the escalation.
Cream of the crowd, cream of the crowd, cream of the block, cream of the crowd, cream of the crowd, cream of the block, cream of the crowd.
Pilgrim finally shows himself. At least we know where he is now. Zealot calls jammed, and we pull a little bit of range. Loki, Pilgrim, and Falcon, they've got a lot of tools to kill a two-man gang, so we need to be careful when we attempt to re-engage.
Watch broke fake friends throw they fits to locate ends for crack cocaine binges. Been this raw since off the hinges was considered hip to say. Penetrates in many different ways and slangs I bring to the spot. Witch doctor, and we properly dropping that cream of the crop. Chicks jockers, we're not a secret to the seekers, eager to fill the ears with real hip hop. Knock, knock, witness the verbal massacre mashing on your block.
Pilgrim cloaks here. This is a good sign for us, even though I'm jammed. Zealot is going to try and go in and get on the Falcon, who seems to be isolating himself. That's all I know. Pilgrim isn't moving very fast now that he's cloaked, so now is an ample opportunity to try to rush in, quick bag a kill, and maybe pull out before the Pilgrim gets a chance to light a Sino, or happens to do the smart tactic of finally uncloaking again.
Cream of the crowd, cream of the crowd, cream of the block, cream of the crowd, cream of the crowd, cream of the block, cream of the crowd, cream of the block.
Zealot calls good damage on Falcon. Decide to move in here, get the heated point. We really need to get this guy down. He seems super weakly tanked, so I go in here quick for the kill, heating everything I can. With the Falcon down, that's one part of the problem out of the way. Now the only big concerns are this web Loki, and still that cloaked Pilgrim that might be around somewhere. Because I've got my MJD, I feel comfortable going in close and maybe getting within web range of the Loki. Zealot's also pushing in close here. We're trying to see if we can continue the fight. I switch ammo here to Fusion, just because shooting EMP into an armor Loki is a pretty bad idea. I start pushing dangerously close into the Loki here. Our Zealot got called that he's been webbed, and I was hoping that I can come in and get some heavy nude pressure on. I'm still very concerned about the cloaked Pilgrim that could be anywhere nearby, and it seems that I've kind of fallen right into their trap. I've been webbed by Loki, Pilgrim uncloaks 30 off me, and right now it's going to be a make or break moment. If that Pilgrim lands a scram on me, there's a high probability I'm going to get Sinoed on. I hit the MJD and pray that it'll go off before this Pilgrim can close into scram range. While I may have gotten out safe there, the Zealot's still in some deep shit. Webbed by Loki and with the Pilgrim closing fast on him, and now me 100 kilometers away, I need to hurry my ass back and give him as much support as possible. I start burning over to him, switching ammo again because the Pilgrim is the one that's isolating hard, and honestly right now in the field, he's the biggest threat. He's got the Sino and he can call in a lot of friends. Zealot's burning for his life and is hoping that he can hold the point until I can close range, and then warp off to safety. Unfortunately, Velsh, my zealot pilot, didn't make it. Just barely died trying to stay too long. Sino's up, Pilgrim's low. I heat my MWD and burn for my life. My only hope now is hopefully I can bag the Pilgrim before we leave. Machariel drops in, and before I know it, there's a hell on the field, so I decide it's time to get the fuck out. Welcome to my Machariel video. In this next clip, it's me, a Nano Zealot, and a specially fit curse. Free versus everything else that you can see on the grid. Hope you can enjoy. Start of the fight is a bit shaky. Devoter lands about 29-30k off me. Thankfully, he puts up a bubble and doesn't get a chance to throw on that 37k scram. They have a ton of scary control on the grid. Devoter, Balgorn. We need to be very careful. Machariel starts to isolate a little bit. We call him primary, and him being fairly lightly tanked, we hope that we can break him before one of us either gets caught or has to leave the field because of their overwhelming amount of DPS that they brought. Machariel's burning for his life right now, and Megathron's burning into us. I slip right past him and keep burning for the Machariel, trying to keep on the point. I'm the only one that has the ability to get in like this, and thankfully I'm able to pick up the Machariel this way. But I'm very close and now inside their gang and slightly separated from my fleet. I need to be really careful. Devoter warps down. I need to be really careful of the scram. With Balgorn webs and a Devoter scram, the possibility of one of our gang members getting caught is exceedingly high. Need to pull a little bit of range here and stay safe. Unfortunately, the worst happens. Our Legion gets scrammed by a devoter and then webbed by the Balgorn. There's almost nothing I can do here. It's all on the Curse pilot to see if he can somehow break the devoter cap and run its scram out before the Balgorn gets on top of the Legion. Unfortunately, I can't get into long newt range just because I'll easily be within scram range, so the other thing I can do at this point is provide some supplemental DPS. Unfortunately, every single one of their ships is extremely brick tank, so trying to break it in any fast manner is almost impossible. Machariel lands at range here, separated from his gang, and I see a chance. With the Curse still on the grid, I start heating over towards the Machariel. Not sure I want to MJD just yet, just because I'd like to save it for defensive measures. While burning in, I had assumed that he was an Artimac for quite a while. I've kind of put myself in a bad position here. I don't want to be between him and his fleet because then his fleet members can warp almost directly on top of me. And I'm kind of put in a pickle. I'm running low on cap, I need to run my booster, but at the same time I need to get a distance ahead of him, ideally, with my NWD, which is sucking a lot of cap. I pull up from underneath him and I try and keep myself ahead of him if all possible. That way at least his fleet members can't warp directly on top of me. Devoter's still on the grid, and if I'm within 40k of him, there's a very real possibility the Devoter can warp on 0 and I'm just instantly scrammed and then dead. As if on cue, the Devoter warps right on top of the Machariel, just as we're about to finish him off. I heat my MWD and try and burn away here. I get scrammed almost immediately, and the only thing that I can do is hopefully coast out of range. Unfortunately, as I'm heating my guns to try and finish the Mach off, I end up burning out my heavy newt, which in a second is going to be a huge pain. The Devoter's closing range on me, and right now it's all up to the Curse to see if he can newt off the scram, because if he can't, I'm going to die shortly here. I'm really low on cap. I start locking up the Devoter, but there's no way I can break his tank, so I decided to end up switching back to Machariel. I reloaded a barrage, hoping that I can still hit him from this range, at least maybe get a kill. Machariel warps off here, and I'm in low shield, and thankfully our Curse pilot is a god and is able to newt off the Devoter, and I'm able to warp off barely alive. Unfortunately, because of his bravery, the Curse pilot put himself in danger and ends up getting scrammed by the Devoter for long enough for Balgorn to warp on top of him, so we end up losing 2. This next clip, it's me again in a Machariel with Brainstraw flying his anti-support Legion. With 2 Onyx on the grid, we initially had been a little bit hesitant to go in. However, this one has started to isolate itself. Brainstorm's been keeping a point on it with some good kiting, and now that he's weak, I decided to go in for the kill and really start the fight. Maulus ends up damping the shit out of me and pushes me out of block range very quickly. Deimos is burning out after me, so even though the temp is low, I decide to switch out and just get pushed off by the Deimos because it's, right now, the only thing I can lock. Tempest MJD's here, and I completely failed pilot and let him slip out of my long point range, not burning in hard for the kill. Just really, really bad piloting on my part right here. Devoter is landing just as the Deimos is about to finish off. I stick around just so he goes down and start heating the MWD away almost immediately. I'm covered in damps and TDs. This is a dangerous situation to be in. Getting a quick overview of the field here. I'm trying to call out that Manicore that's TDing me with double TDs and in general making it really hard for me to hit just about anything. I send Brain after him, and with his anti-support Legion, hopefully he should be able to make short work of that Manicore. Now that that's done, that's one less threat to worry about. Devoter's positioned himself on a ping above the battlefield. He can warp down to any ship that we get close to, so heated long points and being very, very careful not to put yourself in between fleet mates and him is going to be paramount if we're going to want to continue this fight here. The private guys that we're fighting are continually warping in more DPS, so it's getting more and more difficult to break through their complete wall of EHP. I'm engaged in a wild goose chase against Celestis, which unfortunately doesn't end too well. We'll continually warp back in on the grid and generally make this fight a lot harder than it kind of already has been. Just as we're about to be forced off again through DPS and EWAR, we're joined by another Wilderness Corps member in a Ziffle. So hopefully, with 3 of us, we can maybe turn the tides. Again, our entire fleet is trying to stay underneath theirs simply because of that devoter that's hanging above us. Ideally, if we sit below all of their ships, the devoter won't be able to warp in on 0, whereas if we sat to the side or above, there's a higher probability that the devoter would be able to warp in closer than, let's say, 40 or 30k at the max ranges where we're sitting with our heated long points. Again, the devoter drops in right from above. Luckily we're below, and with a heated MWD point, I'm able to escape his point and coast out, but just barely. Really, really close calls like this, because if I get scrammed by a devoter and I'm not able to slip out like that, my fleet mates aren't really going to be able to do anything to help me. With the EWAR piling on, and with them having a lot of damage and battleships along with Logi, we're kind of taking stock of the situation. Nowadays, with Hicks having 37k scrams and MJDing battleships and battlecruisers, you have a very slim margin for error. Basically from 40 kilometers to 80 kilometers where you're really in a safe zone. Anything closer or further away from that, when you have battleships, battlecruisers, and Hicks on the grid, it's a recipe for trouble. Machariel does not have a lot of tank. No invuln, no DCU, and no rigs that offer any type of tanking means that in this situation, with a number of long-range battleships on the grid, I can get in a lot of trouble very quickly if I try and move in too close to help better apply my damage. The Celestis is making me its bitch once again, and I attempt to hunt it down with an MJD, but this pilot's right on top of the ball and is warping out immediately when I start my MJD cycle. Kind of brutal, but at least I pushed him off the grid for a little bit. Now that the Celestis is off the grid, now's an ample opportunity for us to try to get some kills without having to be under the oppressive damps that the Celestis has been providing almost all fight.
This wave crashing down, push me deep into the ground, float away with the tide, I'll drown, sinking, following the sound, vibrations on surface of where you belong, of where you came from, vibrations on surface of where you belong, of where you came from. Feel this wave crashing down, push me deep into the ground,
this point in the fight, I'm running very low on cap boosters. In fact, these 4 are the only ones that I have left. I'm trying not to run my booster and just seeing if I can finish off this Harping Navy without chugging through the last 4, just because they're seeming willing to continue the fight, and I don't want to have to go home because I don't have enough cap boosters. However, the Celestis puts my plan on hold, damping me down to about 27 kilometers. And because I was letting my tank run a little bit dry there, I have to warp off and try to rejoin the fight. The warp back in actually puts me in a nice spot from the Stradios. I hit the MJD button and go for it, but just as I land, he was already aligned and warped out. So really, really close, but what are you going to do? However, that's not the end of my problems. I had been dual boxing this entire time, and they had been aggressively probing my links, which no longer were safe on gates because they had MJD destroyers. However, I lost concentration for a little bit, and my links got probed down, so we run away from the Tempest and that Rattlesnake in order to try to save them. Unbeknownst to me, not only would my links get destroyed, but my Machariel soon after.
This wave crashing down, push me deep into the ground, float away with the tide I'll drown, sinking, following the sound. Feel this wave.
The Stradios is going really, really hard after me here. Basically click approaching and feeling good because he's got a lot of refs behind him, but as he starts falling out of their fall-off range, he starts getting in a lot of hurt. The Legion and the Zwiffle land and are able to apply additional DPS. You know, smelling blood, the Legion moves in for a web, but unfortunately is counterwebbed by the Stradios. Trying to free the Legion, I come in for heavy newt range, at least trying to put some pressure on the Stradios as well as all the reps that he's getting. Nanoing these days is really hard. With Hicks having a 38k scram and MJDing battleships and battlecruisers hitting you from 100k, if you fall too close in on 40k of a target or too close to 100k, you're going to get MJD'd on, just like I was here. I lost concentration for a little bit here, and I allowed a Nightmare to basically sit roughly 100k away from me. He hits the MJD button and lands within scram webbed, and when a Machariel's scram webbed with this much DPS and Logi on the grid, there's not really much you can do except end your roam. And not only was the roam ended, but I think this video will be at a close as well. I hope you enjoyed. Fly safe and take care.